Hello and welcome back to Colour in Your Life. Today is a very special episode and we're going to see Mark Waller in his studio in the beautiful seaside town of Lennox Head in northern New South Wales. Mark's studio is located above the Lennox Art Gallery and I got to meet up with my dear friend Frankie Sharman. Frankie has been managing Mark's art career. We also worked together with Colour in Your Life for many years. Frankie is renowned for her exquisite wood carvings and is affectionately known as Spoon Girl. You can go and discover more of her creations on Facebook and Instagram. The Lennox Art Collective, located on the main street, is a collaboration of 8 local artists showcasing a variety of remarkable works. They also have regular guest exhibitions, so there's always something new to see. And they do various art workshops throughout the week, so make sure you check them out online. It really is a gorgeous little gallery. So if you're in the area, you must come and visit. So let's go upstairs and see what he's going to create for us today. Okay Mark, so here we are in your studio up above the gallery and I can see you've started on a canvas there.
Well, in my garden I've got this lovely clump of banana leaves and I was loving the way the light was hitting everything, and so I thought I'd just sketch one out. I've done a few paintings of the banana leaves. I love doing the light through them, and this is basically how it starts off. Put down the bones, put down a few shapes so I know where everything is, and then wing it from there.
And we have actually been in your studio before about 10 years ago.
We have.
Last time you were blocking in with red and here you've got purple. Can you tell us why you use those colours to block in?
If I was more concerned about where everything was going to be, I would start off with the orange and then go back over it and put the purple over the top of it. But because I'm not too worried about this at the moment, so if I start with a lighter colour and then come back over a darker colour, I can move things around. Whereas this, it doesn't matter. Like if a leaf goes in the wrong direction a little bit, no one's going to get upset. So straight in with the purple. Looking at my picture here, at my reference photo, I've noticed that there's a lot of brown and dead leaves sort of crossing across the green leaves.
And you use your phone for your reference?
I use a phone for a reference, yeah. I've got about 25 million photos in my phone.
Do you take your own photos?
I do, yeah. And my photos are all just generally to give me an idea of something. I don't usually work slavishly to them unless it's necessary.
And so you're quite well known for painting pandanus and your ocean scenes. Is that what really drives you? No, look, the subject is important, but it's not the most important thing. For me, painting is, I don't want to sound trite, but it's sort of almost like a spiritual practice. There's something about being completely engaged in making marks and reproducing magic in the world, and it's transcendent. I know that sounds kind of trite, but I have heard that when they've done brain mapping of people who are painting, their brain behaves very similarly to someone who's meditating, for example. So I think maybe the painting process is probably the most important part. It's kind of like that absolutely lost in now, because ultimately really it's all we have, but we're very distracted a lot of the time and we forget to notice just how beautiful now is. It's funny thinking about that. I actually got a little bit emotional, got a bit teary, because you know, we are alive for such a short time and we live on this magnificent rock in the depths of space, and most of us are so busy surviving and doing, and I get it, you know, we've got to, but it seems a shame to me not to actually, you know, taste the air or, you know, look at light on a leaf or that sort of stuff. You know, it's sort of survive. I was a little sick a little while ago and I spent 2 years in the chemo ward, and most of the men that I'd met in the chemo ward had just retired. And that seemed like a shame to me, you know. 84 years roughly of life, and we wait till we retire before we can enjoy it. Seems a shame.
So Mark, can you tell the audience about where your art journey started?
When I was at school, well, even before, I remember sitting on the floor, everyone was, watching TV, or when I was really young, listening to the radio or whatever it was, and I was always drawing, and I never really thought much about it until my mum one day did a couple of paintings, and I don't know why, I just picked up her paints when no one was around and copied a couple of paintings that they'd bought from somewhere, and they actually turned out reasonably well. I remember being quite shocked at how good they were. Then of course, from that point on, I spent the rest of my life chasing that. At that time, a productive member of society wasn't an artist particularly, so I was, encouraged to join the Navy and all that sort of thing, but nothing ever really lit me up like painting did. So yeah, funnily enough, while I was in the hospital, a lot of downtime, and I had my mobile phone, I actually kind of fell in love. I wasn't a big fan of the mobile phone so much before the surgery, but after that I realised that not only was it a way of me connecting with the people that I loved, because I was stuck in Perth for quite a while, it was also an opportunity for me to kind of start writing down stuff. And so I did. I just banged out, I don't know how many words, 60,000 words or something in the hospital. And we turned it into a book.
And is that book available on your website?
That book is available on my website, and it's also available on Amazon.
Cool.
So this is one of the best parts of doing these foliage pictures, is that you get, where the sun hits it, the light kind of shines through, and you get these lovely kind of lime greens where the light's shining through the leaf, and you end up with this lovely kind of like that. That's not bright enough yet, we'll brighten it up later. And I'm just going to make this suggestion of light, shafts of light coming through the leaves here and there. So I'm getting this colour now, which is cadmium yellow medium and French ultramarine, cadmium yellow medium and forest green. And those colours, I've got a paint recipe book, and those colours make the most wonderful kind of backlit colours. And I'm just putting them through here and there in the background.
Did you mention a paint recipe book?
I did. One of the reasons why I don't look at the phone a lot is because I have a recipe or recipes in my head, and they're sort of go-to colours. So one would be, general Australian foliage colour, which would be forest green with dioxazine purple, and then another one which would be leaves that are backlit, which would have a different colour. So they're in this recipe book, which is a fantastic product actually. It's designed so that you can use these paints and mix the colour exactly next to the colour on the paint and then wipe it off. So feeling pretty proud about that one actually. And that's actually got QR codes, so you can go to the YouTube and work out, exactly how to do it. We actually film us doing it.
I know you're a big fan of chroma paints.
I am a massive fan of chroma paints. I love that eccentric genius that was Jim, and very sad that he's no longer with us. But I love the fact that there are paints, acrylic paints, that I can slow down, I can speed up, I can make them bend to my will. I feel like I need an evil laugh in there somewhere. But you have so much more control. Blending with acrylics over large areas can be really problematic, but with Atelier Interactive, it just takes out a lot of that, which is great. But then there's all these other products, Free Flow, which is this lovely free-flowing paint, and glazes and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. And it's Australian.
And you work with the wonderful Frankie Sharman.
I do, Spoon Gal. Frankie's been working with me for a really, really long time, and I loved working with her prior to me having the brain tumour. But when you have an experience like that and you have someone who has your back and that they are as loyal as they are, then you do not let that person out of your sight. Frankie does everything. She does all my organising.
And we do have the amazing Frankie behind the camera today, and also the wonderful Cobia Panguana. He's over there filming too.
Most stylish cameraman I've ever seen.
We've got quite a few paintings of sunrises. Living in Lennox Head, you must get some beautiful mornings here, especially being an avid surfer.
I'm usually up pretty early these days and get to see the sun come up, and that's why I said before I think I've got 25,000 photos on my phone, because there's hardly a sunrise that comes along that I don't take a photograph of.
Do you look at sunrises and those colours in your recipe book?
No, in the recipe book, so I try and simplify everything. The recipe book is generally, I think everything's kind of in the middle of the day, but I've kind of distilled the times of day into colours. So for example, in the middle of the day, if you have any highlights, they're going to be kind of cad yellow, light and white. But then as you get round to say 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a little bit later, they'll start going into a warmer yellow. And then as it gets later, it'll start going into oranges.
Oh, look at that rich colour.
And then, you'll start going into your reds. And then your purples. I love dioxazine purple. It's so purple, it's almost black. And then you'll go into your warm blue, French ultramarine. And then you'll go into phthalo blue.
Unless, of course, it's summer up here.
Or daylight savings time,
Yes.
et cetera. I like to try and simplify everything, and there is one rule though that transcends every rule, and that is that there's an exception to every rule. So even though this is my rough guide, it's always only ever a rough guide. It's only ever something to get me started, and then I'll start looking for the detail. So it's like with these, for example, I'm always looking for three sources of light. So I've got, it's backlit, I've got blue highlights from the sky, and then I'll have direct highlights from the sun. And then there'd probably be light bouncing back up underneath. So I'm always looking for different sources of light, but if I aim for 3 and then find an extra one, it's a bonus.
And where's the best place that people can come and to buy your work now?
Well, probably, COVID and a few other bits and pieces have probably done a serious amount of damage to a lot of galleries and a lot of places for us to hang our work. But currently, the Lennox Arts Collective is probably one of the best spots, and the other one would be Arwen Gallery in Canberra. Bob has been a long supporter of mine. He's a lovely guy and a great collector and has a lot of my paintings. We do sell paintings online. Some people like the touch and feel, but generally most people, what you see is what you get. So we do sell quite a lot of paintings online.
But you said that you want to work on a couple of other paintings, or at least another one today. Would you like to move on to that?
Yeah. Well, generally how I work is that I have a short attention span. So I'll work on something and I'll work with it until it holds me, or until it lets go of me, and then I'll walk around the studio for a little while and go, oh, that one looks nice, and then I'll work on that until I get bored with that. And then at some point I end up with finishing about 8 paintings on one day, and everyone goes, he's so prolific. So I think maybe we'll pick up a nice bright sunny sort of surf painting, because I haven't had a surf for a while. All right, so this is how I work. I go from one painting to the next, to the next, to the next, lose interest, go back to the next one. But I always try and make sure that I'm excited about the one that I'm working on. And this one's got waves in it, and it's my home, so I can't not be.
What are you mixing up there?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm always looking for at least three sources of light, and there's quite often a lot of blue on the tops of branches. If you look closely, and this fan brush is great for kind of suggesting that. So, and when I put this on, it probably won't make sense when I'm telling it, speaking about it, but when you actually see it go on, you can see what a difference it makes. So I'm just going to here, and these pandanus trees have got that lovely kind of mark in the bark or in the trunks that sort of signify where the leaves have emerged out of them. Now, one of the great things about doing this is that you get to create the impression of dimension. So by bringing those brush strokes almost straight down like that, you kind of create the impression of this plant branch being parallel to your eye. But this one here, by putting that reflection of the sky on the top edge like that, it creates the impression of that trunk going away from you.
And this is a technique that you actually worked on in the last show that we did.
It is.
When Graham was host. And
it is, yeah.
We just wanted to pay a little tribute to Graham.
Absolutely,
Who passed away in 2022.
Yep.
But he was a very dear friend of yours.
Yes, he was, yeah.
And he set up this platform.
Yeah.
And
well, we're doing this today because of Graham.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
And to keep that legacy alive, and he was really driven by helping artists and wanting to help spread creativity throughout the world. So thank you, Graham.
Yep. That's what.
And we have mentioned about your online workshops, but you actually do overseas tours as well.
We've done a couple of workshops in Fiji. We're doing one this year, and we've got one next year in Tasmania. And we're hoping that anyone watching this who has a place in the south of France that wants us to do a workshop there. Basically, I'll go anywhere where people will pay me to teach to paint.
What you're painting here is Lennox Head. It could really be anywhere in the world.
Well, and that's the other thing about the recipes, you know, like when you've got the recipes and you can distill, and I think How to Paint Tropical Water is probably one of our most popular YouTube clips.
And that's got like nearly 4 million views at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is that it's quite simple, which is how I like to work. But at the same time, once you understand the fundamentals of that, it's easier to kind of extrapolate it out. And that's kind of how I work.
Now, you've had another very unique experience of being followed by a filmmaker for 20 years. The documentary is called Meet the Wallers, which was screened here in Lennox Head.
Byron Bay Film Festival, yeah.
Tell us more about that experience.
To be honest, I really wasn't sure what, I mean, we just went along with it, weirdly. It was more Jim's baby than anything, and we ended up being the willing victims, I guess. If I did sort of think that maybe it would be useful for other artists, or, you know, I really didn't think too much about it. You know, we just kind of went along and bam, it all happened, yeah. Well, initially it was about the exhibition that Graham and I were going to have in New York, and then
that's right, because you travelled across America
with Graham, yeah.
And was Tom Shanks?
Tom was involved, yeah. He was incredibly generous. Tom,
he's a wonderful man. We give a shout out to Tom.
Yeah, I love Tom, and I would love to have another conversation with him at some stage. Yeah, beautiful human being. That's where the film started. My wife Nicole met Jim, who's the filmmaker, at a course, and he was kind of intrigued, and then he climbed on board. And initially it was about the exhibition in New York, and then it became about making a living as an artist, and then that morphed into surviving cancer and a whole pile of other things. So what initially was just going to be a short-term thing ended up being a 20-year project. And Jim, through Antidote Films, kind of stuck with the process for a very long time. And yeah, came out with this lovely film at the end.
You know what though?
Living.
I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Every second of it. Loved every second of it. Do it again tomorrow. Tomorrow. In fact, now.
So one of the techniques I developed a little while ago painting, and it's in the tropical water one, which has got a lot of love but also a lot of hate, is this technique I use to kind of create the illusion of the light refracting on the sand underneath the water. So what I'm using here is the tropical water recipe, which is, in this particular occasion, is mainly white with a cadmium yellow light and some phthalo blue, and it gives you this lovely kind of turquoisey thing. And the shallower we get, the more cad yellow light we put in. So I'm just gonna, and in fact I'm actually gonna put that in the face of that wave there, and it makes that wave look like it's breaking in shallower water. And now I just kind of do this here and there in the shallower water. You may be noticing that I'm just using this fan exclusively. It's not necessarily because it will do a better job. It's because I get too carried away to change the brush. But it'll still do the job. So this next bit, I'll show you this next bit. This is super fun. Got to get the brush exactly right though. You need a wet, dry brush. So it means the paint has to have quite a lot of water in it, but you've got to take most of the paint out. Water is so reflective, and if you take the time to watch, you can see in the waves, in the water in front of a wave, you can see the whitewash being reflected down. And one of the tricks I use is a dry brush down and a wet brush across, and that kind of creates that lovely reflection in the water. So now I'm just, remember I said standing things up and lying things down? I'm creating these little planes now that there's a reflective flat surface that the waves are being reflected in. And you create those sort of lovely little ripples, and sort of makes these suggestions that there's some activity and some action going in these shallow bits. And it's kind of fun just to do that on the back of these little waves, because then it suggests that those little waves are poking their heads up high enough for the reflection to be seen. We are hardwired because of survival to look for patterns, and as a painter what happens is we have to unlearn some of that, because there is a tendency to want to make patterns, but it's when things look too patterned, for want of a better term, they don't look natural. So you've got to find that kind of chaotic pattern that makes things look natural, but that is still patterny enough so that you get a sense of form and colour and shape.
Okay, well that was a fantastic day with you, Mark, again in your studio. Such a pleasure to be here. And thank you for all your tips and just telling about your life story. I think Mark has a great philosophy about life and also painting. But you can go and see more of your work at...
You can go and check out the paintings at markwaller.com.au. If you're interested in tutorial stuff, you can go to Explore Acrylics on YouTube. And our website, our tutorial website, I think is exploreacrylicpainting.com.
Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.